Welcome to Creative Peacemeal Podcast, a podcast for creatives. I'm your host, Tammy Takeishi. Join me for compelling conversations with artists, actors, authors, musicians, and other creatives about the impact of the creative and fine arts in their lives and our ever-changing world. Thank you for listening. Hello, and welcome to Creative Peacemeal Podcast. I am your host, Tammy Takeishi, and today I am here with the violinist Filip Pogády. He has been praised by the press for the beauty of his tone, lightning-like virtuosity, and his commanding performances. Pogády has performed in some of the most renowned concert venues in the world, including Lincoln Center, Rudolphium, Concerthaus, Tel Aviv Opera House, Lot Hall, and Seoul Art Center. And he also makes TV appearances. He is currently living in New York City, and he has earned his master's degree in violin performance under the tutelage of Maestro Pinkas Zuckerman at the Manhattan School of Music, where he was awarded in full scholarship. Welcome to the show. Very excited to have you here.
Thanks so much, Tammy. Thanks for having me. Great to meet you.
Thank you. Great to meet you. It's always nice to have other fellow violinists on the show.
Yes, I always like to talk violin stuff.
Yes,
I can go
shop.
for hours. Yes, so much fun.
Indeed. So we're going to get started with who or what inspired you to become a musician?
Well, in my family, no one was really a musician. My parents were both amateur musicians. My dad, and both my mom and my dad, actually, they both took piano lessons as kids. And my dad even took opera singing lessons when I was growing up even. So I was exposed to classical music. My dad would always listen to music when he was cleaning around the house, which is the Mozart piano concerto. That was his thing. Yeah. So there was lots of classical music in the house, but nobody was doing it professionally. And they always considered it to be part of basic education, that you should have some sort of musical education in order to be a well-rounded person. And I completely agree with that. And then my sister was already playing the piano. She's 2 years older than me. And everybody was just assuming that I would also follow in her footsteps and play piano as well. But I just wanted to be different. So I picked the violin because I don't know why I just said violin. It just seemed to make sense. I saw it on TV a few times and I feel like I just thought it was kind of cool. I don't know. I don't have an explanation why I wanted the violin. But it was different. There was a violin in the family already because my great cousin just quit playing the violin. And that was like a 8-size violin or something. So that was very convenient. So I picked up lessons soon after that. I was 8 years old. So it was basically the classic scenario of your parents getting you into it. And then you develop a taste for it with time. So it wasn't that I was so inspired by myself. Of course, the inspiration came later by watching, as we spoke about earlier, like YouTube videos, violinists and stuff like this. So, I mean, obviously before YouTube a long time. So VHS cassettes we are speaking here. Heifetz was something that just blew my mind, like watching him play Scherzo Tarantella, this famous video that was just blew my mind, basically. So I just wanted to get as close to that as I possibly can. Yeah, that was pretty much the start of my path.
That sounds great. I mean, if you could go back in time, would you choose the violin still?
Absolutely, yes. I love the instrument still. I mean, every time I open the violin case, I feel like I've made the right choice, definitely. Like, it makes me happy to this day, so no regrets at all. And if it wasn't the violin, it would be something else, but also hopefully something creative and something where we can create something, whether it's sound or original pieces or whether it's music or something else, but it would have been hopefully something creative. I don't know. It's hard to kind of think about alternative paths in your life once you have already gone down a road. Sometimes I wonder, like, if I would be the same person if I didn't play the violin. Probably not. I have no idea. But it definitely shaped me, I'm sure.
Of course, yeah. That definitely raises interesting questions, like how much does the instrument influence who you are and how much do you influence your own playing?
Right. It probably goes hand in hand somehow, but yeah, it's a question that probably won't be answered today.
It's a little too deep for this early in the morning, right?
Okay, good. Yeah, it's later. Yeah.
Obviously you love the violin, but if you had to pick a few favorite composers, who would they be?
I like to stick to the old great values of Bach, Mozart and Beethoven. I love those three. I mean, there's really a reason why those are just such almost like household names, one could say. I mean, I really, there's maybe Schubert as well on that list, but those are probably my absolute favorites. Of course, you don't want to offend people like Tchaikovsky and other great masters, but if I had to pick just three, it would probably be those three. Yeah.
I would agree with you there. Yeah.
I'm not usually a huge fan of this avant-garde contemporary stuff. That's just me. Maybe I'm just too much of an old soul. I don't know, but I have no shame. I have no shame admitting that I love older music. Like I'm a huge fan.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Like I can rock out to some Renaissance and Baroque any day.
Yeah, of course, totally. There was this funny two-set bit where they were like how normal people listen to classical music and how I listen to classical music. That's totally the case. Like there's like a Mozart symphony and they're like dancing to it. It's a little like one of those little Instagram bits, but I thought it was quite funny.
Yes.
Yeah, it shows the enthusiasm for classical music among classical musicians at least.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. So it's so true. You know, we really love what we do and just get into the music. And you know, sometimes when you're outside of that world, it's almost hard to realize like how beautiful just a chord change can be.
Yeah, and our lives, how beautiful those are. I mean, we are just concerning ourselves with things that are so beyond what anybody else, most people concern themselves with just because, oh, I'm sorry, I should put my phone on Do Not Disturb because this is going to be, sorry, everybody.
No worries.
Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm back. Where were we again? Sorry. Oh, yeah. Yes. Chord changes, how beautiful they are. Yes, totally. That we are concerning ourselves with things that are so beyond what most people concern themselves with professionally on an everyday basis, because it's something that's fun to us. And it's at the same time, it's, as we spoke about earlier, like it's actually incredibly deep stuff. And that's very satisfying.
It is.
Yeah.
If you had to pick a favorite piece of music that you perform, do you have one of those?
Oh, there's too many. I mean, the obvious answer is always to say, oh, it should be the piece that you're playing at that moment. And I agree with that in a way. You know what? I'm going to go with this stereotypical cliche answer. It should be the piece that you're playing at that very moment. Yes. Yeah.
That's so funny that you say that. I have another guest that had come on the show.
Who said the same thing?
A couple months ago, and he said the same thing. And he's like, I know it's cliche, but it's true.
It is very true. I completely agree with it. I don't know where I heard it also. I don't think I'm the one who came up with it, for sure not. And maybe just everybody comes up with it individually, who knows? Because it is kind of an obvious thought.
It's true. And I guess if you're doing, I guess if you're doing music right, it would almost be that, because you're ingrained in just living in that piece, historically and whatnot.
It kind of shows that you're at least, I mean, it may not be the best, but you're at least trying to give it your best if you answer that way. So the effort should be rewarded as well, even if it doesn't quite work many times, of course. But yeah, good to have high ideals.
It is. Yes. So you do like practice diaries and videos and things like that, which I think are fantastic and wonderful for fellow instrumentalists, whether they're young or old, to sort of brush up on or just get ideas for their own technique and things of that nature. And I was wondering, how does that go for you? You know, where do you come up with your ideas? What's your creative process? What are you thinking next in that field?
Well, I mean, in terms of social media and stuff, I just post pretty much what I'm practicing at the moment or what's fun to me. I don't really post anything that I just post for the people. That's how selfish I am. I just share what I'm working on and what I enjoy doing. So I feel like that's quote unquote keeping it pretty real when it comes to my Instagram. In terms of overall creative endeavors, there's actually things that some people don't even know about me. Like, I don't consider myself only with classical these days. I do lots of electronic music production. I'm really fascinated by this stuff, and I'm learning a lot about it. And actually, this whole quarantine life has been, I mean, of course, it's been a horrible thing, but in a way, it's been also good for something, because I had lots of time to just really dive into those YouTube tutorials and to just really kind of work on that aspect of music making as well, which I find very fascinating. And incredibly creative as well. You really find a completely new appreciation for pop music and electronic music and all these other genres that are so that feel so far outside of the classical realm, even though they are not really. And there is almost like an elitist kind of classical perception sometimes of these things, which I'm not a huge fan of. Yeah, people should just calm down. It's music and we should all be happy.
Yes. I think it's so important for people to find ways to have creative outlets and creative expressions. And whether they grew up playing classical or they grew up self-taught, it's just important to experiment and see what happens with sound when you do things
Absolutely.
to sound.
I mean, I didn't listen to any kind of other music besides classical until I was about 21 or so. So I was very much deep in that classical rabbit hole for most of my upbringing, my entire childhood, pretty much. And then the funny thing happened. I broke my arm and I couldn't play for 5 months. And that's why I was thinking, okay, I'm going to explore a little bit and listen to some other stuff, maybe. And I had to really work my way up from ground zero. Like I had to listen to the Beatles and really basic things that I just didn't. Everybody knows this stuff, but I didn't. I was too caught up comparing the Konus concerto recording of Heifetz versus somebody else. So it was like really complete different world. So I started listening to all kinds of stuff and I discovered some great things. Like I really developed my music taste. And I also think it made me actually a better classical player just because it broadened my horizon. And that's incredibly important, I think, especially for classical musicians, where it's so easy to get caught up in just nerding out over recordings. And yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's important to dive in deep, like you were saying, and nerd out over recordings, but it's also so important to expose your ears and your mind and your heart to different genres because, it's just sort of completes.
Absolutely,
something.
Yeah. I mean, it's all created by humans and it's all music. So
it is.
It's all connected on some level.
Since you did go on that journey, are there any favorite bands or albums that really have inspired or influenced you? Or
I have really gotten to love progressive metal.
Yes.
So I really got to love Dream Theater. That's one of my favorite bands.
Oh, nice. That
stuff is just unbelievable to me. Just they have there's those massive 18-minute pieces and stuff. I don't quote me on this. Maybe less or more than that. But it's Octavarium, for instance. That's one track that sticks out. And I think the whole album is called Octavarium as well. The music is just unbelievable. It's basically a rock symphony, and it just goes. It's the whole journey that kind of comes back to the beginning again. It's like an alpha and omega kind of thing. It's unbelievable. Check it out if you haven't already. Dream Theater, fantastic band. Whom I also like a lot, Muse.
Me too, yes.
Then, I mean, Queen I already knew about before, but I love their music as well. What else? I mean, Led Zeppelin and all these things. But yeah, Dream Theater is one that sticks out for me in a way because it just feels different than from anybody else. They have their own distinct sound, which is quite amazing to me. Yeah. That was also Dream Theater was one of the reasons why I got myself an electric violin in the first place. Right after I was done with college, and I got a distortion pedal and everything. And it was the dorkiest thing. I did also in my graduation recital at Manhattan School of Music. I played as an encore and Metallica medley, which I put together with my pianist. And it was I played the recital program was Franck Sonata, then Bach C Major Sonata, and Faust Fantasy Wieniawski. And I think there were some modern pieces as well, which I don't remember. Oh yeah, Albanese. Style of Albanese, Shedrin. That's the piece. And as an encore, so after the Faust Fantasy, I kind of there was a big reveal under the blanket. There was an electric violin and an amplifier, and I played with my pianist. It was just such a great time. And I probably must have lost some people, and I probably gained some people. But it was fun to me.
Oh, that sounds so awesome. I love that there's that dichotomy of the classical and the rock.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah. I love that kind of stuff. So, but also since then, I mean, progressive metal is something that I enjoy a lot, like the whole rock kind of genre. But it's gotten also more into electronic stuff as well. Lots of dubstep, lots of trance, lots of mostly dubstep actually. I like the really more in your face genres most of the time when it comes to electronic things. Not so much the whole chill step and deep house and stuff. It's a little bit more on that more aggressive route, I would say.
Do you ever experiment with writing your own stuff like that?
Not rock, really. I mean, yes, I did actually, but it's kind of embarrassing. I actually made a couple of those tracks, and I tried it with my electric violin right after graduating college. I mean, it was okay. It was trying to kind of imitate this genre, but it's not something I would perform out in public at this point. It was part of my journey, I would say. Yeah.
That's cool. It just sounded like something to experiment with and have fun with.
Exactly. And I was also learning, like, I didn't have the proper computer software or anything. It was just like a free Audacity plugin. I was just, there was nothing was quantized. It was just me with an metronome in my headphones. And like, it was really, really low production level. I think I have evolved in that regard a little bit since then, luckily. But it was fun, and I definitely learned a lot from it.
It seems like you always try to keep things fresh and you're always learning. Where do you think you see yourself in 5 years?
Such a great question. Geographically or in life? Geographically, probably in New York. I love that city so much. I love the people there, the whole vibe and the energy of the city. I really have learned to love. Professionally, I would imagine I would be still making music in some shape or form. I love classical, but I love, as we already discussed, other genres too. So classical will always be part of my life, but we'll see where the journey brings me. I feel like it's always, nothing is set in stone when it comes to these things. But yeah, creating and music is definitely part of the journey for sure.
Very true. And that's cool about New York. What are some places you like to play and visit? Because I know you've played on the subway before. Do you still do that?
No, not so much. It's also gotten more ridiculous, I feel like, with because it's actually a legal thing to do. But sometimes the police doesn't know that, and you don't want to get into an argument with them. So it's like sometimes they're cool, but sometimes they're not. So it's like, it's always kind of, you never know what you're going to run into. Also, I have to play a bad instrument when I play on the subway most of the time because I don't want to take my great violin with me. So that's no fun for me. But yeah, I would still do it sometimes, but not as often as I used to. When I was fresh out of college, it was like when I was playing almost every day on the subway. And I had a great time, and I met lots of cool people by doing that. But yeah, not so much now anymore. Other than that, there's so many venues in New York that they're just amazing. I mean, historically, it's like there's Carnegie. I mean, but there's also like those small niche places that are not so niche and small anymore, like Subculture and Poisson Rouge, and all those little artsy places where music at the highest level is performed in a casual setting. So yeah, you can have a drink and listen to some of the greatest music. I mean, what's better than that?
It's true. Yeah. New York has always really been known for such a diverse musical landscape and the opportunity to go. So
it's amazing. Yeah. There's really no other place like it.
It's got such a wonderful vibe. I absolutely loved my time there as well.
Yeah. And the openness of the people is just also so kind of amazing. It's just, you can really strike up a conversation with anybody. And it's most likely people will have a story, an interesting story, how they got there, why they got there, and everybody struggles to be there. And it's kind of an interesting pot of people. Everybody has a little story. I like that.
Yes. I could also like talk to anyone, and I grew up in the Midwest, so when I was up there, I feel like I was like always super chatty to people all the time.
Yeah. And you realize how chatty you have become once you step outside of New York and go somewhere else. Like, people look at you like you're a crazy person just chatting up people randomly.
Yes.
But it's like you have to adjust to the energy. Like, first, when you have been outside of New York for a while, you kind of calm down and you adjust to the energy of your surroundings. Then you get back to New York and you feel like, oh my God, why is everybody talking to me? And you become a little bit like anxious, but it goes away in like 5 minutes. And then you're back in your chatty mode. But yeah, it definitely affects you as a person, for sure. Just the energy level is just way higher, I feel like. And I like that. I'm a huge fan.
Yes. It's a good energy. I really like it too. I mean, I know it's not for everyone, but like, I just felt alive. Even at 5:30 in the morning, going to where I needed to go, it's like, you just felt it. The passion of all these people.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's something else for sure. Yeah.
So I'm very curious, obviously you've chosen a musical path in your life, but other than what you currently engage in, would you, or if you could do any other creative pursuit, what would that be?
It would probably be something with film or movies or something like this. I've started making a tutorial series on my YouTube channel with violin advice and violin videos, mostly technical stuff. I've kind of started to enjoy the editing process in Final Cut Pro, and I had to watch a ton of tutorials to make it work. But I feel like I've become sort of decent at it at this point, and it's just so creative as well. You can really tell a story just with a violin tutorial. You can be as crazy and as out there as you want to be, or not, but you can really shape it into something, and it's quite amazing to me. Like, you can really tell a story, which music making is in a way as well. So I guess that's what it has in common. So yeah, something probably with film editing, something like that.
That's really cool. And listeners, if you haven't checked out his tutorial videos yet, definitely do, especially if you're a young violinist. They're super helpful, super interesting.
Yes, it's very comprehensive, and I try to be straight to the point. I hope it's helpful. The response has been good so far, so I hope people keep enjoying it. It's called Violin Playing Explained.
I'll put a link in the show notes. I like it too. It's a good refresher for me. It's like, oh yeah, that's how we do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's also been something that I started doing because I had more time during all these lockdowns and everything. So I was thinking I need to diversify my creative process a little bit. So I was thinking maybe a tutorial series. It's been on my mind for a while, but I was thinking maybe this is a good time to get it out there. So I try to use the time efficiently, and it seems like people are enjoying it. So I'm happy about that.
That's good. Yeah, I was wondering, how has lockdown, wherever you had been, how had that affected your creative process? And did you have to cancel a lot of concerts and things like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, everything has been postponed / canceled. Some of them mostly postponed, which is good. But there have been also concerts that were postponed like 3 times in Europe, for instance, where the lockdowns have been going on forever and eventually canceled. Like, it's really sad for the whole music business and music industry and the artists and the audience as well. So yeah, it's no fun. So I actually did a lot of, as I said, like lots of self-improvement in terms of learning new skills when it comes to music, but also teaching, a lot of teaching actually these days. Also through my YouTube series, I was able to gain new students, and I was able to build up a nice sized studio. So I have now students from all over the world, and they're all great. They're super enthusiastic, and I really enjoy working with them. So that was a positive side effect, I guess, of the unfortunate 2020 year.
Well, that's fantastic about the studio, though, and being able to pass on your knowledge to other people.
Yeah, it's actually amazing because I feel like I'm actually learning so much about the playing myself just by having to say things and verbalize things. You approach things from a completely different angle once you have to actually speak it out. Like even the most basic mechanical processes when it comes to violin playing, just they seem so obvious to you, but they are totally not. And you have to figure out what it is exactly that makes something work or not work. That has been very, very interesting. Yeah, just finding out things about myself, I guess, as well.
Yeah. Well, they always say, that teaching strengthens a person's abilities.
Yeah, like I feel like when I practice now, I feel like there's a little like Pogády teacher on my shoulder that's like telling me things, but I would tell my students as well. It's like a combination of my old teachers and then also me, what I say to my students, and they all yell at me left and right. But that's good for motivation sometimes.
Are you an etude person? Do you like etudes?
Not at all. I actually kind of hate them. I don't think they're that helpful. But maybe it's because I've been through them, so I kind of don't really see the benefit anymore. But honestly, I've never done that many etudes. It was more about pieces. I always felt like etudes are just kind of, I'm sure they are helpful to a certain extent, but I just feel like they are kind of a waste of time, the time that you could be using on pieces that you can actually perform. Because nobody wants to hear an evening of Rode etudes or Maza etudes. And it's like performing scales in public. I mean, it's useful, but nobody wants to hear it. Yeah, those are my thoughts. Even like Paganini Caprices, I was never a huge fan of them. Of course, there's some and 24 and those some are really iconic and stuff. But I was never really the kind of like Paganini Caprices kind of guy. I feel like I never really saw the appeal too much.
I was always jealous of the cellists because their etudes are gorgeous. Like, it doesn't matter. You can pick an etude out of the air from the cello repertoire, and it sounds like a real solid piece of music. You get to the violin etudes, and it's like lots of screeching cats. It's like, please no.
Yeah. I have to do my research when it comes to cello etudes. I've never had anybody in the family like learn cello, so I guess I've been missing out on that.
Oh, they're gorgeous.
Check it out.
Yeah.
What are the names? Like, who are the cello etude composers?
There's quite a few, but off the top of my head, like Duport.
Okay, take a note of that. Actually, I'll write.
Schroeder has like some foundational studies where if you get toward the back of the book, they're really good. Popper.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Another good one. And they're actually really beautiful. You know, like some of them are just absolutely gorgeous, but then you get to like violin and it's like they just have not the same appeal at all.
I feel like also, I mean, they usually have a purpose. Each etude has a purpose, like chords or string crossings or something very specific. And then the music suffers because it's trying to put it into this box of string crossings or this box of chords. And it can't really, the creativity is very limited, I feel like, when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm,
so that's why it just sounds like, chords.
Yeah.
Or string crossings. Like, it doesn't sound like a piece anymore.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
If you had to give advice to your students and you could only tell them one thing, what would that be?
This is very violin specific right now, but I would say play by the bridge, for God's sake. Like most people are just all over the place. I feel like that's the thing that I say the most. Slow down your bow speed and play by the bridge. And if I had to say just one, I would say play by the bridge because that's going to slow down the bow speed automatically. That's very specific, and that's probably the advice I would give them.
It's good advice. It's good advice, especially for the beginners where they do that with their arm and suddenly they're by the scroll.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, like even if it's out of tune, like at least have a good sound while you're playing out of tune, I feel like. Yes.
And rosin.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. That's even more basic. That's true. It's funny, I actually attended a friend's wedding once, and there was this amazing gypsy band. Like, they were playing all those, like, Robbie Lakatos style music, and it was unbelievable, everything. Like, the violinist was amazing, and all of them. There was a cellist, and they were doing an arrangement of the 24th Caprice by Paganini, and they were exchanging the theme, like, the cellist and the violinist. It was amazing, yeah? And then afterwards, like, of course, the wedding was going on, and then they were like, Filip, why don't you play something with the band, yeah? So I was like, okay, sure. So I grabbed I took the violinist's violin, and I tried, and he had zero rosin on the bow. I was amazed, like how he played with that thing. I had no grip at all, and he was just playing amazingly the whole night. Wow. But yeah, I don't know where the story is going. I just felt like sharing it. Like, there's no point to this. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting no rosin story.
That is like I am a faithful rosiner every time. Yeah,
I do it way too little. I feel like I do it maybe once a week. Yeah, it really I should do it more often. But yeah, I also like cleaning the varnish underneath the strings. Like that's
Yes, it's very satisfying.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't like the sound it makes when you clean the strings, that like high
Oh
speed.
Yeah, that's horrible. Yeah.
Oh, it's awful.
But it's so satisfying when you see the smoke coming off the bow because it's so like aggressively rosined.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's just everything just sounds super harsh, but yeah, it kind of makes you happy because you have all the grip in the world.
If you could hold on to one musical memory from your life forever, what would that be?
One musical memory. I used to play with my pianist, Peter Fanchevich, brilliant pianist. Check him out if you haven't already. And we would always play basically just for fun. They didn't pay us anything. We were just there for the free meal and the free drinks, basically, just because I knew the manager and I knew the people who worked at the bar. In East Village, actually, where I live, like right around the corner, is this place called Anyway Cafe. And we would play there sometimes for 2 or 3 hours, just like run repertoire. We knew everybody like at this bar, but after a few months of just like playing there sometimes. And there were some great memories. Like I just felt like this is like all what music is about. Like there were people there, friends would come by and would have a drink with us, and we would be playing for hours at a time. I don't know. It was just a very, very magical experience, a very magical place, very intimate setting, playing with a great pianist friend of mine. I don't know. That's memory that's I cherish a lot.
That sounds fantastic too. Just a chance to make music, be out in the community, and that's what it's all about. Sharing the music.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, there's great times. I mean, one could also say the same kind of cheesy answer like what we spoke about earlier about you should always love the music that you're playing at the moment. It should be also like, oh, well, every single time I open a violin case should be the most cherished moment in the world. But yeah, if I have to pick one, this is the one. Yeah, from the Russian dive bar in the East Village.
There you go.
Yes.
And sometimes when there's no inhibitions and you just go out and you play, it really frees you up to play and get to the heart of the music and just connect, because you're not worrying about nerves or a stage or any barriers. It's just you and the music.
We would just play whatever just came to our mind, whatever we enjoyed. He would play solo repertoire. We would play just Hungarian dances by Brahms and Chardash and like all this kind of music. So all the crowd pleasers that are also fun for us to play. So we would make our own arrangements of stuff, and we had a blast.
It sounds like you've done a lot of like really cool things, whether it's for fun or part of your professional life in terms of concerts. But have you ever had like a worst gig or a worst concert?
You are never 100% happy with yourself. I feel like that's just the nature of the job, and neither should you be. I mean, you should be always striving to perform at your best. What sticks out as a particularly bad concert? Let me think.
Well, I don't mean to take a negative turn. I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, I mean it's fine. I mean it's fine. There's negativity in life. It's okay. Okay, well, maybe when I transitioned from playing with a shoulder rest to playing without a shoulder rest, it was not easy for me initially. But I just wanted to make it happen by all means, because all my greatest heroes were doing it, and I felt like I need to do this somehow. Like it was also some sort of vanity thing. Like when you walk out in the violin, just you see the bare back of the violin, nothing underneath, no pillow, no bridge, no wolf, no kun, no bon musica, none of that stuff. It just looks so cool. I felt like it's super old school as well. So I just wanted to make it happen by all means. And there were some performances in that time that I would say, okay, well, there was a price to be paid for playing without a shoulder rest now. There was one concert where I was playing, it was live streamed actually. And then there was like, and I have to say, well, it wasn't great. I didn't play there great. And then some people commented, oh, he can only play well when it's like in his practice room on Instagram. But when he gets out and like live streams a concert, it's not that great. Like people were just like, there were a bunch of haters commenting. But yeah, whatever. They were sort of right. But yeah, I learned my lesson, and now I'm more comfortable than ever playing without anything. So it was worth it. The bad concert was worth it, or bad concerts, some of them. Yeah.
Well, it takes a lot of courage to do something like that. Change up something that you've been used to and go out in public and just be like, here I am.
Yeah, it changes your entire setup in a way. Now I see the benefits more than I have ever, but it was definitely a struggle. And I didn't really have all the information, I feel like, which is also why I decided to make those tutorial videos, because that's actually one of the questions that I get asked the most. They see you play without shoulders, how do you do this? So I figured I have some answers which I have acquired over the years and lots of pain and struggle. So I feel like I might as well just share it and make the path easier for some people.
I know, like for Baroque violin, they encourage not playing with a shoulder rest because it's more authentic.
I mean, they're super hardcore about these things. I know a couple of Baroque players, and they even remove the chin rest because that's not how it was done. So there's absolutely nothing to hold on to. I mean, some people, what is generally accepted, I've heard, is putting a knot on the tailpiece, and that gives you a little bit of grip so it doesn't completely slide away. But I would imagine applying pressure to the tailpiece directly changes the intonation and the tension of the strings. So I don't really know how it works exactly. But yeah, that's a little bit too hardcore for me. Like no chin rest, no shoulder rest. Good luck. I mean, if you can do it, God bless you. But I would not try it. I feel like that's a bit too much. That's a bit too much commitment. And especially with the classical repertoire, the romantic repertoire especially, which requires to climb up the fingerboard, like that's not really doable. I don't think that you can really play Paganini caprices without a chin rest and a shoulder rest. I'm not sure. Did Paganini play with the chin rest? I'm not sure anymore. When was the chin rest invented? I'm going to Google it right now, actually. It's an interesting question.
Yeah, I was wondering that, actually.
Yeah. Chin rest violin.
I'm very particular about my chin rest. When I got my violin, my sister gave me a violin from Mittenwald, Germany, and I didn't like the chin rest that it came with, so I had it switched out.
Yeah. Okay. So it was Louis Spohr who invented it.
Oh.
And it was in 1820. So, I mean, I don't know if that's like the actual year when it was. And then Paganini, he died in 1840, right? So it's the last 20 years Paganini was enjoying a chin rest. I don't think. So he was probably also playing without anything or had like some sort of knot or something. That's mighty impressive.
Indeed.
Next step on my journey, just remove the chin rest. Go completely natural. No vibrato at all.
Make sure to use a crummy violin, though, in case it falls.
And gut strings.
Right.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. That's so interesting about the shoulder rest, though. I know like so many violinists and violists, they go through a dilemma of trying to find out what works for them. And
yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it's also such an emotional thing. Like some people think this is the only right way of doing it. This is the only right way of doing it. I mean, of course, whatever works, but I see the benefits of both in a way. I still see more benefits with playing with nothing. I mean, no shoulder rest, like some sort of sponge or towel, whatever they use. But I think that's better. That's the better way of going about it, I think.
And I don't know if it's just my ears, but I feel like when you play with certain shoulder rests, the sound quality is different.
It always sounds worse, I think. I mean, no matter how they make those hollow ones and then the ones that attach to the tail, to the button at the end of the violin, or all these things, I still feel like it just sounds better without. It really does.
Yeah.
And there's lots of people who say, yeah, but they're close, but still, it still sounds worse. Like, I don't know why that is, but the violin just definitely rings more.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. Yeah, I definitely like the sound without a shoulder rest, but like for me personally, it's hard to play without one, for sure.
What kind do you use?
I'll have to pull it out. I don't remember what it's called. Hang on.
There was like Pirastro, there was Kuhn, Wolf, obviously like those brands. Bon Musica, which was like the most restricting with that around your shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
I've even seen prototypes that go around your neck. Basically, you can just stand up straight and the violin is still horizontal. Like it goes like a hook around your neck that just stays here and the violin is just like off to the side. Like it looks like a torture device.
Oh, that sounds horrific.
Yeah.
It really does.
I don't think it ever went into production, but I've seen those.
Oh wow!
And
yeah.
I was thinking, who would buy that? I guess nobody did, which is why I didn't really went into production. So yeah, I mean, look, if it works, who cares? Yeah, it's better to be comfortable than get 2% more sound out of it. I mean, you probably get better sound out of it by being comfortable.
True.
Yeah.
What had started you on your journey to playing without a shoulder rest? Was it mostly like the authenticity of the sound, or were you having like shoulder issues, or?
I wasn't really having pain of any kind. I was actually fine playing with it. I was just curious about it. Actually, I started. What was it that got me started? Obviously my teacher who was a big supporter of playing without a shoulder rest, and that kind of got me thinking. I was fighting him my entire studies on keeping my shoulder rest, actually. Then after I graduated, I started seeing the light and I realized this guy was right all along. And then I just need to make it work somehow. But yeah, it was definitely worth it. Like I encourage anybody to give it a shot. It's gonna take a while, but I think it's worth it.
I might have to give that a try myself.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Just use something underneath. How tall are you, by the way?
Oh, I'm so short. I'm 4'11".
You'll be fine, easy. Yeah. You don't even need to put like anything underneath. You'll be like, the violin will be just right there.
That's right.
That's actually great. I feel like there is such a thing as being too tall for the violin, especially when your neck is just like this giraffe kind of thing. I mean, I'm not like extremely tall, but I feel for a violinist, I'm already like right at the edge. I'm 6'2". So it's like, that's yeah, it probably should be like 5'11". That would be probably like the sweet spot of being a violinist, or 6 foot at the most. But yeah, oh well.
6'2", is that with the really cool hairdo, or is it like 6'5" when your hair's done really
When I flatten, it's probably 6'2.5" with the hair. Yeah, it just stays like, it's like people ask me like, what do you do with your hair? You must spend hours with your hair. I don't. It's just like, this is what it is.
That's always a good thing, though. You don't have to worry when you go to concerts,
Hairstyle tutorial coming up. Just kidding.
Right? How to get perfect violin hair.
Oh God. That's actually something that people comment on in such a weird thing. Like when you play something fast or something, and then people just go, "Oh, the hair is moving in the rhythm of the piece or something." Like it's there's a lot of talk about musicians' hair, I feel like. Yeah.
It's true. Like
what's the cellist also? What's his name? Gauthier Capuçon. He's like also like he gets all the hair comments. I feel like
he does have good hair. He's got good hair. Misha Maïski has really good hair.
Oh yeah! Oh my God! He has like rock star hair. He looks like the lead guitar. What's this guy's name? I mean, any 80s and 90s rock band kind of hair he has actually.
And he pulls it off so well. Such good hair.
Part of the look.
A little diversion there, but
yes, I actually cut off my hair completely during the quarantine and everything. I had a complete short buzz cut. I looked like every other Slovakian guy, and it felt great. It felt fantastic. It's super liberating. It feels amazing. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It's not a look I enjoy that much anymore. So you always want to switch it up. I feel like. Why am I talking about this? Let's keep going.
Okay. What is one musical item other than your instruments that you can't live without?
I mean, is it a musical item if it's not an instrument? Is a computer a musical item if it's not strictly an instrument? I mean, violin has only one purpose, right? And computer has multiple purposes. So I guess my laptop, musical item. What else? I mean, rosin, I guess, is a musical item without being really an instrument. But it's kind of pointless without the instrument itself. So yeah, I would say a laptop. Yeah.
That makes sense, because, you're doing your tutorials and.
Yeah, and you can have music creating software like Ableton Live or Logic or any of these, and you can create entire symphonies in that thing. So it basically is a musical instrument at this point.
That makes sense. Yeah, especially because you said you're, interested in like electronic music and things like that.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. You can create entire worlds in that stuff. I mean, it's really very fascinating to me. I can spend days just in those digital audio workstations, as they call them, DAWs, DAWs. Yeah, that's the lingo.
Yeah. Do you ever mess around with like GarageBand or anything? Like I could just spend hours messing around in GarageBand.
I've never tried GarageBand. I started with Ableton Live and I stuck to it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it seems to be like that's like the industry standard anyway. So I feel like that's a good one to learn and to explore.
GarageBand is just fun to mess around with. Like I said, especially with the creative artists and people making videos and content and experimenting with music, it's just so much easier on that kind of technology.
It's just a smoother user experience, I feel like. Mm-hmm. It doesn't maybe allow you so many things, but it's fine. I'm not a programmer. I'm a musician. It's fine.
Agreed. So I was wondering, what is one common myth about the music world or a stereotype about being a musician that you hope to break?
I mean, I feel like they're mostly all true. I mean, they're mostly pretty much spot on. I mean, people are very involved in what they're doing, and it's an all-consuming thing in their lives, which is a good thing. I feel like that's the way it should be. What are other stereotypes about musicians? Let me think. I mean, they're like classical musicians. Yes, they're super nerdy, and yes, they're many times closed-minded about just classical music. And I think that's maybe something that I would say should be broken apart a little bit. Like get out there and explore and listen to other stuff. Mm-hmm. And likewise, if you're a rock musician or a pop musician or something, also listen to classical music. Like educate yourself. I think that's the most important thing. listen to all kinds of stuff, even stuff you don't particularly enjoy at first. Just expose yourself to lots of stuff.
And I find things like Spotify and other music players where they have algorithms and they say, if you like this artist, you might check out this artist. I think those are so fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Spotify is absolutely worth it. I feel like maybe I should cancel Netflix and just keep Spotify. I feel like Spotify is just, it really widens your horizon as for what you're listening to. Even like playlists by genre or something. You just discover so many new artists whom you would probably not discover organically.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's hard sometimes to take that leap of faith and be like, okay, I'm, listen to this person.
And dedicate 2 minutes to somebody you don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah. While you waste your time on Instagram, but this like exploring new artists, no.
Yeah, it sort of forces you to be like, okay, I'm going to.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, most of the time I feel like I find new music mostly through friends, because I already trust their opinion and I trust their taste. That's how I mostly get into new music. But yeah, Spotify playlist is also another channel of doing that.
So you listen to like violin music and you analyze it, but what have you discovered recently that you're really into?
Well, there's lots of electronic stuff. I mean, it's funny actually. With violin music, I don't really listen to that anymore that much. It's mostly just classical, but non-violin stuff. When it's just violin music, I usually just go for specific parts of a recording that I particularly enjoy. Like, it's not that I would just sit down and listen to an entire Brahms concerto at this point. It just doesn't really happen that much. I just know this place of the Brahms concerto is awesome, and I want to get my fix on that one right now. And I go really like laser focused in that part, minute and second. Most of the time I already know where it is, and I just listen to that. Other than that, classical stuff, I listen mostly chamber music, symphonies, piano music, cello solo works, like stuff like this. It's not really violin related at this point. But other than that, I mean, when it comes to, let's say, electronic stuff, there's too many to name at this point. Yeah, as I said, I really like lots of dubstep. I like lots of trance, that kind of stuff.
What are some of the best resources you can recommend for someone who wants to get into violin?
I would say YouTube is an amazing platform for if you want to learn anything or get educated on anything. I feel like YouTube is just, I feel like YouTube contains almost all human knowledge, a huge percentage of it, because everybody has the right to upload anything pretty much. It's an amazing platform. So I would say YouTube is probably a great resource. And then, you can start with Suzuki books, I guess. That's another thing.
Yeah, classic.
But yeah, exactly. Back to basics. But I think YouTube is fantastic when it comes to any kind of self-improvement, whether you want to get into fitness or whether you want to get into music of any kind, or you can really educate yourself on pretty much any topic, which is so fascinating in a way.
Yeah, and it really is such a great resource and something that was not around when we were younger.
Yeah,
to be able to do that.
And I realize now when I search for something, I don't really go to Google anymore. I just go to YouTube. I want the person telling me what something's about. I don't really go to Google anymore, which is kind of lazy, but I find myself doing that more and more often.
Yeah, I just did that the other day. I got a French press coffee maker and I had no idea how to use it. So I went to YouTube.
Exactly. Yeah. French press is great.
It is. It really is. It's an art form though.
Yes.
For sure.
I guess it's also easy to get into that whole culture of just do you grind your own coffee or do you not grind your own coffee? And then there's some elitists telling you that you're not doing it right. And everybody's a barista on YouTube in the comment section.
It is pretty humorous. So before we go, in your own words, what does living a creative life mean to you?
It means, I guess, trying to leave something behind in a way, especially if you're creating things. Recordings are definitely creating something. It's not you're unlike most people, I feel like, when you live a creative life in a way. You have it, because it's not easy to live this way, and there is a price in a way to pay, but it's super rewarding at the same time. So I don't think I would trade it for anything, but I think it takes a certain kind of person to do it.
I would definitely agree there. Would you say that there's burnout in the field a lot?
I think it happens periodically. I don't think anybody is just like a fountain of great ideas 24/7. I think there's always ups and downs, and that's natural. I mean, burnout is probably a strong word, but yeah.
True.
Yeah, burnout is maybe a bit strong, but yeah, I definitely think that there's better times and there's worse times. And also that has to do with what you're going through personally and all these things, your surroundings, the people you surround yourself with, and so forth, how supportive your surroundings is, and so forth. So that's all to be taken into account, I guess.
Very true. Lots to think about there. One final question, which I'm just very curious about. If you could bring back any musician or artist from the grave, who would it be?
Probably one of the three that I mentioned earlier, probably Bach, Beethoven, or Mozart. And it would be interesting what they would be. Would they be themselves, or would they be just the same genetic material, just born now?
Ooh, that is a very interesting twist I had not thought of.
Yeah, because look, you have the talent and you have all like the brain and everything is the same, but he lives into he's a dude of today's era basically. And if he's just Mozart time traveling, then he would probably have a ton of questions about today's world. But I was thinking about this actually. I spoke to a friend about this. What kind of electronic music would be a Bach making if he was born today? Like if he had, because he has the capacity for greatness. We know that because he has shown that quite clearly, I would say. But what would he do with other genres if he were born today? That would be actually an interesting question, I think. I would love to see that. Like what a Mozart could do if he just dove into Logic Pro and just go crazy. And like if he would decide to be a musician in the first place, because that's also like what would have to kind of get him there. Maybe he would want to do something else. Who knows? But if he were to make music, like what would he be making? That'll be interesting to see for sure. So any of those three, I would be happy to see.
Yes, I would agree there. Though it's like the Holy Trinity.
Yeah, and exactly. And would the workflow be the same? Like would a Mozart just make things, and would a Beethoven work over a piece 15 times before he would release his single or his EP or whatever? And the Bach, would he just always follow a mathematical pattern that works like in a relation to the universe and everything else? It would be interesting to see that. I would love to hear their music, what they would come up with today.
I always wondered, like, whenever I was messing around in like Sibelius or Finale, would Mozart just copy paste?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, if it's working, why would you change anything?
Right. If it isn't broken, don't fix it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, of course not.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and having you on the podcast.
Likewise, Tammy. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. And listeners, you can connect with Filip on social media, and you can check out his tutorial videos. So links will be in the show notes. Thanks and have a great day. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Like the show? Have a question? Stop by the Facebook and Instagram pages. Links are in the show notes, or search for Creative Peacemeal Podcast on social media and click follow for all the latest.